I'm proud today to be a veteran.
I'm Arnold Bradley. A lot of people call me Steve.
My name is Paul G. Vanover.
Mike Randolph.
My name is David Shockey.
Wayne Fridley. I served in the Vietnam War from, I was in Nam April 26, 69 to 5 June of 70.
We was there at Da Nang August 15th, 1965 into early January, and then there was a satchel charge attack at Marble Mountain Air Base, which is just a short distance south of Da Nang. So they moved us over there for a while.
A lot of my friends and I had two other buddies who went in what they call the buddy program. We talked about it, we all went in together, decided that it was the best to do. We felt we needed to do our part for our country.
I was drafted, however, at the reception center you test out, they found out what job you'd be appropriate for. I elected to take another year of service so I could get the military job that I preferred, and that worked out really well for me.
I had a buddy that convinced me to join the Army, and so I could go to school on the GI Bill when I got out. And if it hadn't been for a GI Bill, they would have drafted me, but I enlisted so I could get my schooling.
The first morning in boot camp, I can remember this big metal trash can flying down through the barracks and the drill instructor screaming, "Get up, get up, get up." I can remember getting punched a couple of times. I never quit on anything. I was a weakling when I went in. I weighed 145 pounds. But I made up my mind that I was not going to quit on anything. On a run, pull-ups, push-ups, whatever. I was not going to quit.
Flew into Fort Knox, Kentucky. That's where I took basic training. My DI drill instructor was Sergeant Campbell. It was rough there because they had two hills there known as Misery and Agony, and so it depended on which day as to whether you went up Agony and down Misery or up Misery and down Agony. So yeah, that was basic. We had one in particular known as Sergeant Push-Up. I don't know his real name, and let me tell you, I learned what a push-up was, and we did a lot of them.
My MOS was 76P20. That's stock control and accounting, or quartermaster, if you will. I worked at that in Saigon. They trained us specifically in warehousing and shipping and receiving and that sort of thing. We had requisitions. Those poor guys in the field didn't have any footballs or basketballs or tennis shoes or anything like that, fans or radios. Took us almost a year to do that. I was elected to drive the vehicle. It seems like all the West Virginia guys get to drive a general around or something, but I was a designated driver for our crew. We worked at Saigon docks, and it was 10 or 12 miles from the hotel. But on some occasions it would take you an hour, hour and a half to get there because of so much traveling.
I decided that I did not want to be a custodian anymore, and I'd already gotten married and had a little boy. And so I went and signed up for the United States Air Force. My first duty assignment was Cheyenne, Wyoming, and I spent, I think, about 22 months there. And I got orders to go to Saigon, Vietnam. And then I went to California to ship out, and they had changed my orders because Vietnam was winding down, and they sent me to Okinawa, Japan instead. And while there, they asked for volunteers to guard the airplane that flew to Saigon to pick up the orphans that had been orphaned during the war and to transport them to Clark Air Base in the Philippines. Japan would not accept them. A lot of those kids were adopted by several famous people in the United States.
When I got to Vietnam, it was April 26th of '69. It was midday, about noon. They diverted us to Ton Son, and that's where I got off the plane, and then they put me on a deuce-and-a-half truck and took me to Cu Chi Base Camp, 25th Infantry. I was assigned to Fire Support Base Keene. They were rebuilding forces there on Fire Support Base Keene because the base had been overran with a human wave attack and satchel charges, and lost everybody. So yeah, all that happened in one day, and the next day I was on a heliborne going to the Saigon River. So yeah, I remember it very well.
We landed in Ton Son Air Base at the airfield there, and they unloaded us, and they marched us to a bivouac area, and that's where they was going to stay. And when we got off the plane, I remember one thing. It was like walking into an oven. It was so humid, unreal. It was just miserable. First thing you could walk 5 minutes, you was soaking wet. It was how humid and hot it was. What our job was is that we went into villages or wherever we went. We were assigned to take photographs of any evidence of what happened during that time. And I carried a 45 and M16 short. We were trained to still fight. I remember hunkering down one night, and of course the Marines, of course, they like to, they dig their foxholes. We had to dig foxholes just like them. We was all taking turns sleeping. They had guards out, of course, or somebody had to stay awake. We was in a closed area, perimeter area, and we had everything claymores set up in case the enemy came into our area and stuff like that. They'd go off. There was 67 of us out there, and all at once all hell broke loose. And all I knew is that I just prayed that I was going to make it through this. I was scared. The VC come over the wire, and he tried to stick him with a bayonet. And the only thing I grabbed, I had a trenching tool laid beside the foxhole, and I hit the VC with it. And it was tough. I ran out of ammunition, so the only thing I could think of was just a split-second decision that I hit the guy, and I hit him across the side of the head. Of course, he went down, and that I still have issues with that. And I think about it, but that was one of my most memorable when it comes to combat. It's scary, the fact that you take somebody else's life, even though you're there and they're the enemy. You're still a human being. We lost quite a few young men.
I was the stupid hillbilly. I was the guy from West Virginia. Well, he'd be a good man on the point, so that was basically my job, the point man on a patrol. I carried a M14 with a selector to either semi-automatic or full automatic. I can remember getting shot at a lot, 3 or 4 different times with M60 machine guns, which they had taken from American troops after they killed them. You know, you could tell by the sound of it what it was. You could, AK-47, you could just that quick you could recognize what it was. I had an unfortunate incident with a bouncing Betty mine one night. We was on a 7-man patrol, and these things are set down in the ground, and they just got little spikes, and somebody steps on one of them spikes. It jumps about 3 feet in the air and it explodes. That night I was number 6 man, near the tail end. But it took out the guy that tripped it, number 3, number 4 man, and number 5 man. And it blowed me a long distance. But just, it didn't happen to hit me in a vital spot. I had shrapnel in my face, in my arms. The biggest piece went into my leg and cut a nerve, and which took years to heal back. Luckily, they had a helicopter there within 20 minutes to pick me up. and they thought I was the most serious wounded at the time because 2 of them were dead. So they threw me in a helicopter and flew me back to our battalion aid station. The guy took one look at me, the doctor, and said, "Oh my God, that's not a comforting feeling." So what had happened, I had had a piece of shrapnel hit right here. I still got a chunk of it in there. And I had landed on my left side, and the blood from this run in and pooled and filled this eye socket here. And that's what he was seeing, just a pool of blood. And that's why he made the exclamation he did. And one of the experiences was this colonel. He come to our company area, and I think he just wanted to do something that would get him a medal or something. That was just the way we looked at it, because he took our entire squad, took machine gun crew and a rocket crew, and we went about 3 miles down the road, and there was a railroad bridge had been across a little river there, and somebody had bombed it, probably American, I don't know. One end of it was down in the edge of the river, but it was a steel structure and it was still pretty much intact, except that they had taken brush and just weaved it all through that thing. I was started to walk down the embankment to where the end of the bridge was, and I just stopped in midair, and I got this feeling up the back of my neck, just like something was shoving my hair up this way. And I just stopped in midair, backed up, and went down around the side, and then I started working my way through this brush. I put my rifle on my shoulder, and I was going through there. Don't know what I was going to do when I got over to the other side, but well, I got out of almost halfway across the bridge, and I heard an explosion. I looked back, and right where I had started to step down off that first step, this colonel stepped off there, and he stepped on a mine and blowed his leg off. And I got back off that bridge a whole lot faster than I got on it. And I went up and I held his leg up so that the corpsman could dress it, get the bandages on it to get the blood to quit flowing. And all I could remember about his leg, it just felt so soft, I guess from the concussion of the explosive. As soon as we could get him wrapped up and bandaged, in less than 20 minutes, the helicopter was there to get him. So we carried him out and down around, put him in the helicopter. And this one guy that was with me at PFC Ragsdale, he was just crying his eyes out. And that guy looked up at him, he said, "Don't cry, young man, everything's going to be all right." Before the helicopter could get off the ground, the second explosion. The sergeant that was his aide found the next one. Blowed his other leg off. So we went up and got him and wrapped him up and got him in a helicopter, and then we headed back to where we should have stayed.
If I had to average it, I'd say we saw combat on average of every 3 days. Some of it was very serious engagements with the enemy. We took many kilos. When I go to the real Vietnam Wall, I always look the names up of some of my buddies. I don't remember them all. One of the things I remember most is carrying the guys from the field and putting them on the dust-off or medevac helicopters and wondering, will I be the next one that they load on the helicopter? So it's a traumatic experience. Hard. You never forget. When you see your buddies getting cut down with gunfire, or you assist your buddies to the helicopter or carry them because they had limbs blown off and can't walk. And after you put them on a helicopter, and you wear their blood on your body, on your uniform, hands, everything, you have no way to wash it off. It stays on there until it rains or you sweat it off. When you live in that environment, it's hard not to hate the enemy.
They had a lot of Vietnamese civilians there that went around and they worked there cleaning up after we ate and stuff. And I saw what really kind of bothered me is the fact that the people were very poor over there. They would take the leftover food and stuff and they'd put it in plastic bags, and they would take that food and they'd take it and just throw it on one bag and they'd give it to their families to eat. That was one of my memorable things I remember. I felt really sorry for them, even though they didn't have anything to do with it, but the communists were the ones that did, but you never knew who the enemy was. But it still bothered me to see that they would have to eat garbage to survive. I know that sounds strange, but that would really, one thing that set in my mind. I remember that.
One of the most memorable experiences was meeting a young lady on the street in Saigon. She was leading a little boy. He was so cute, had a little hat on. He was probably 3, maybe 4 years old. And I asked her if I could take a picture with him. And she agreed, but I was a little reluctant to even ask her because the South Vietnamese people, in religious respect, don't like to be photographed because they're used in the funeral thing. She did, and I took that picture. I don't have it, I can't find it. But, that was one of the most memorable experiences because all the South Vietnamese, I found out, didn't regret having the U.S. military there.
I was really disappointed in the American people when our veterans was coming back from Vietnam. Some of them got spit on in the airports. And the guys were there under orders of Lyndon B. Johnson. And what they felt didn't matter. They were there because they had to be there. They were following orders. And a lot of the military people just got blamed for that. And the blame was uncalled for. They were just following orders. They were doing, and that really hurt me whenever I heard. Now, I personally never had that happen, but I knew several of my buddies did. And it's sad. It's sad.
Roger was the son of one of our neighbors. We lived in Webster County. He was the best buddy of my brother, younger brother. And Roger enlisted, went over there. He was there about a month and got killed. The sniper killed him. And it was a tough thing for the whole neighborhood. And of course, Webster County, a real small county, so it was tough losing a fellow person there.
Dad was a two-tour Vietnam veteran in the United States Navy, and he had dropped out of college early on. He realized it wasn't for him, and he went home and announced to his parents. He said, "Mom, Dad, I'm going to join the Marine Corps." And his dad said, son, you don't want to do that. Why don't you join the Navy instead? The Marine Corps will send you to Vietnam. So he joined the United States Navy instead, and they sent him to Vietnam twice. So he was always a proud veteran, and ultimately the Agent Orange exposure from the Vietnam service is what got him. He died of ALS in 2016. But nonetheless, he was a very proud Navy veteran, very proud American, and proud of his Vietnam service.
And upon the completion of the national anthem, if you will remain standing, as Staff Sergeant Jason Rose delivers the invocation. Tribute to Vietnam veterans.
Get to host events like this. I love that we have visitors from around West Virginia, Ohio, the entire region. For those who may not know a lot about Ravenswood, or for anyone who may have forgotten, let me tell you something about this town or county that many of us are proud to call home.
Thank you for your sacrifice.
Specialist 4, Gary Dwight Haynes. Corporal David Michael Hopkins, United States Army, perished on 28 September 1970. Private First Class Charles Everett Hurd, United States Marine Corps, died on 3 August 1966. Staff Sergeant Delmer R. Jones, United States Army, was missing in action and then was declared deceased on 7 January 1968. Warrant Officer Freddie Lewis Locker, United States Army, perished on 25 November 1970. Private First Class James Ray Miller, United States Army, was an infantryman who was killed in action on 16 September 1968. Staff Sergeant Landon Claire Ray, United States Army. He was a military police officer who perished on 23 February 1967. Corporal Romy Earl Huger, Jr., United States Army, killed in action on 11 August 1966. He was a military police officer whose hometown was Ravenswood, and he's buried in Summersville, West Virginia. Our wreath bearer is now accompanied by Corporal Huger's sister, Liz.
Present up! Aim! Up! Aim! Up! Aim! Up! And fall!
I'm the last blood relative of the immediate family, and my other brother died in March, so I wanted to be here to honor my brother who died in Vietnam. I was like 3 or 4 when it happened, but I can still remember the grief it caused my parents. And then my aunt just turned 91, and she can remember my dad's hair turned gray, like in 3 months. And my brother, Ron, my aunt said, had a nervous breakdown because he was 3 years younger than my brother.
What do you think about the ceremony?
It was very nice.
Romy Hubert was the biggest man to ever play football for Ravenswood High School. No doubt about it. That boy was about close, he was pushing 7 foot, a little over 300 pounds. But more than that, he was just a tremendous guy. They came in here, of course, when the old Kaiser popped up. Romy was just one tremendous individual, a nice guy. As big as he was, he could have walked through anything he wanted. Hey, this is a fantastic thing the city has done. Little old Ravenswood, West Virginia, who would have ever believed it? Now, I've seen the one in D.C., the actual wall, but for this to be in Ravenswood is quite an honor for us.
After I got off the ship on the second cruise, I got out in May, and on October 1st there was an explosion and we had 20 sailors killed. So come to pay respect to them. And to all the others, 58,000 lives, that's a lot of lives, and they just get a little name on the wall. So they deserve our respect and honor.
Ralph was a hometown boy who graduated from Southern Local Schools in Racine, Ohio in 1968. And he got drafted right after we graduated, went through basic training, and was killed a year later in the Battle of Cambodia. And so he didn't get a chance to live his life, but I've known Ralph since I was in the first grade. I went through school with him. Great guy. Joke.
He was smart.
He was very smart.
I went to the war over here 5 years ago. And I lost good friends over there. And if you go to panel 17, a lot of my friends were on that panel. I remember going there, and it was called Rolling Thunder because I rode most of the Harley out there. I went out there with all my friends at rides. There's a lot of veterans. And we went out there to honor the wall, the real wall there in D.C. And a lot of us had friends on the wall. And I remember going there and seeing some of my friends. I remember it was heart-wrenching. It was very hard to see their names up there and that you remember the experiences you had with them. And I remember crying. Sorry, I get emotional, but I remember crying over it, and you bring back memories of the good times you had. And of course, you remember the bad times too, and things that happened. But I think it's good. I think it's an honor that they're doing that. They're bringing it out to show the support.
It's been, 50 years, you might as well say. And I've got 4 children, and I'm very involved with them, and my 10 grandchildren. They're very involved, and I enjoy life immensely. And I try to leave the bad stuff, every day I can put it behind me more, and it's all in all, it's been a wonderful life. God has blessed me in so many ways, and I thank Him every day.
My brother had married a girl that was still in high school, and she had a friend that is now my wife. So Leslie asked if she wouldn't just write me, so I'd have somebody to say I was writing a letter to.
And that's how you ended up meeting?
Yeah.
I think they're heroes. They'll always be. They'll always be heroes.
I wish I could swim like dolphins can swim, though nothing will keep us together. We can beat them forever and ever. How we can be heroes just for one day. How we can be heroes just for one day. I will be king, and you will be queen. Though nothing will drive us away, how we can be heroes just for one day. How we can be us just for one day. Standing by the wall, and the guns shout above our heads, and we kiss as though nothing could fall. And the shame was on the other side. Only can beat them forever and ever, and we can be heroes just for one day.